Hello, everybody. Welcome to WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And we are coming to you about Patreon. Patreon is a program that we are part of that we are looking to get sponsorship from you guys. And so here's a little bit about what we offer.
Yeah, so we are going to offer just one level for Patreon, and it is you will become a pass holder, and that gives you access to a couple of things. The first thing you get is early bird access to all of our episodes. So as soon as I get an episode done, as soon as we shoot it and I upload it, you will have access to it at that very moment. And it'll be delivered to you through the Patreon app, or you can use our other new feature, which is the new CoPass app, which will be sent to you how to get access to that once you sign up. And it will give you an index of all of our episodes going way back, searchable, everything is there, and you get a place to add new topics to converse with us about that we can potentially go over in the future, and stuff like that. And so we're really excited about it as a concept.
Yeah, you can favorite your favorite episodes so you can listen to,
Yeah.
or for the ones that you're planning on going to Disney, go ahead and save those. That way you know what to do when you're getting there. But this is all for just $5, and $5 it gives you the monthly, I'm gonna say, pass holder level. And so just check it out. We're looking forward to giving you this information and this early content.
All right, now with the show.
Thanks, everybody.
There's a great
Hello, everybody. Welcome to WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And don't mind me, I have burning scotch in my throat. Woo!
In case you're wondering what we ever drank here, it's fine.
Oh,
It's fine.
anybody who watches our videos knows that we drink.
Yep, absolutely.
But this is family friendly.
It's family friendly. It's family friendly drinking.
Yes. On that note, today we have decided that we are going to cover a Jim Henson.
Yes.
You know that we love Jim Henson.
We do.
And
I've waxed on about Muppet Vision 3D not too many times, so
yes. So we figured that with the new show coming out, the Dark Crystals series on Netflix, might be a good time to just talk a little bit about Jim Henson's movie and kind of go over a little bit about the compare and contrast there.
Yeah. So
okay. Long story short, Ian has, shockingly, for some, not for others, never seen Dark Crystal.
This is true.
Okay.
Well, I have now.
Yes. So I sat him down last night and made him watch it.
Yes.
And by last night, I mean a week ago from when you're actually going to be listening to this.
But you don't need to know that. It's fine.
No, it's fine. So, on that note, as is my favorite part of any of these movie episodes, Ian, what was Dark Crystal the movie about?
Well, I'll tell you, Crystal. Good.
Yeah, I got that all my life growing up.
Yeah, I'm sure. So after a lot of exposition, I came to understand that basically Thra, which is a planet, whatever, is like basically it's the heart of it is the crystal of truth, which is this like 13-foot tall crystal in the middle of a thing, and these like kind of like weird vulture pterodactyl looking things called the Skeksis, I think, and they have they are the benevolent overlords, but they aren't actually. They have an ulterior motive, so by the time that we get to them, they are like these horrifying like things that are like using the crystal to leech it for their own power, and are basically using the crystal's power to like extract the life essence from others and like make them more powerful so they continue to rule over Thra. And in the beginning there was this other race called the Gelflings, and they were like the main race that kind of populated the world, and there was this prophecy that the Skeksis found about, and they decided that it meant that there would be a Gelfling that would like destroy their reign, basically after like 1,000, their version of a year. And so they decided that they were going to just kill all of the Gelflings. And they did. So that happened before the movie happened, but you
This
heard
was
about it
all-
in the exposition at the
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah. And so it is presumably that all of the Gelflings are dead and the world is living without them. And then there's these like mystic kind of wizard guys that are like these weird hunched over. They're all puppets, as we probably should have guessed already. They're all puppets, and they're these kind of wizened old things that are like talk like kind of only speaking, singing monk things. And they're like the actual benevolent ones, and this is so insane sounding. And so they found out that they had actually kept, like, one of the Gelflings had been, like, abandoned, or they, like, rescued him, basically, when this all happened, and raised him, and his name is Jen? I think it's Jen, don't remember. And he thinks he's the last Gelfling ever, and the aligning of the three suns that the planet is around are going to align again, which means that either a Gelfling has to take down the Skeksis, or they will reign forever, according to the prophecy thing. And so he sets off as his wizened old mystic guy dies that raised him, and so he goes off to find the crazy being that has like the last piece shard of crystal that needs to go into the main crystal that makes it whole again. Oh my god.
Keep going, this is fun.
I'm sure it is. And so he goes off to do that. He finds, I can't remember the name of the character that has the last shard, and he goes and finds it, gets it, but they get attacked at that like planetarium thing. And so he has to go and run away, and then he runs into another Gelfling, surprise, surprise, that had also survived, and she had been living with another group of hairless Ewoks, and so they like then joined up together to try to put the last shard back into the dark crystal, the crystal of truth, whatever it was. And so they go off to try to do that. And if I remember correctly, there's also a subplot with one of the Skeksis, the one, I think the Chamberlain, is that his name? The Chamberlain. And so he like gets like ousted from power, so he's like trying to like befriend them to try to make peace, but they can see right through him, so he like then just goes on the offensive and tries to like kill them basically. And there was some other reason, so they kind of like thwarted him kind of throughout the thing. And then at the end, they try to extract Kira's life force, the other Gelfling, and she's saved by...
You remembered her name, good job.
Thank you. She was saved by... they left the being that was like the one that had the shard. They didn't kill her. They just like left her in the room with the essence stuff. And so when Kira's in there, she's like, you call the animals, or whatever it was. And so she started to do that because she had the ability to do that. And the animals like came to her aid. And so she got out before the thing got her essence, and she survived. Anyway, so all of that, she ends up getting stabbed by one of the Skekskis. Oh god, I hate that. Skekskis. And but then they like merge. Oh my god. So then the mystic guys come in, and then they put the shard back in. So Jen puts the shard back into the main crystal as the moons align, or the suns align, and all the mystics walk in at that moment, and then like they merge back together again into like one being that I actually looked up the name of, but I still don't remember what it is. And they turn this like
awesome.
This one singular being that they're actually true benevolent, like nice things, and they like are like, you know, you hold on to her, and then she wakes back up, and people are happy, and I think that's how it ends. I actually
and what about your pet?
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Fizgig.
Fizgig. Yeah, he's just like a round. He's like the size of like a basketball, but he's just fluff with a raccoon tail, and his mouth takes up half of his body. It doesn't make any sense. He was adorable. Fizgig. But yeah, so contrary to popular like the way this sounds, I actually enjoyed it, But it's insane. The whole thing is sort of insane.
So, corrections, there's not a lot. So, you're correct. The Skeksis have taken over. They've been stealing the life force from the populace of the world through the crystal and have murdered all of the Gelfling except for Jem. And so then Jem is raised by the mystics and then sent on this quest, and he goes to Okra.
Yeah, that's
and she's the one that provides him with the shard or a box of shards that he has to figure out what the heck he's doing. He has a lot of internal monologue.
Yeah,
and then you meet the other Gelfling, and then yes, they go on the adventure to get to the castle. Yes. And then she is kidnapped by the Chamberlain.
That's
and
what it was.
They steal part of her essence from her. She does escape. They then go to put the shard back in the main crystal. She is stabbed, but healed after everybody is reunited and blended back together.
Yeah.
And so you did a pretty good job with that one.
I forgot about the Chamberlain kidnapping her because I couldn't remember how she got to that point. Because he gets... Anyway, yeah, I remember that now. It's okay. I'm good.
So it's good. This is a movie that came out in 1982.
Yes.
So to just put a little bit of time behind that means that this movie came out before The Labyrinth did, as well as it came out before the Star Wars, why am I brain farting,
the 6th movie.
Yes, Return of the Jedi.
That's the one.
I'm like, why am then my nerd card almost left me there.
It's just like they just came in, grabbed it, and walked away.
Yes, but when you were making all those references, just remember that this came out before then.
Yeah.
And this is a very interesting move of the Jim Henson Company because there was no human involvement, interaction, world that you were in at all. This was purely high fantasy.
Right.
So a lot of people have a hard time with that as well because they use the puppets to try and they've been trying for so many years to blend the puppets with the people, to get them to be a character with people.
Yeah.
And now for them to be a standalone character, it does kind of throw some people off, as well as high fantasy can sometimes be a little bit
you're throwing high fantasy and puppets together at once without any lead in. So at first, I will be honest, it was pretty jarring. So it's kind of like, for me, it was kind of like getting into like watching Shakespeare.
I love Shakespeare.
Me too. But, like, when you haven't been experienced with it and you first jump in, like, it's not clicking. Like, the storyline doesn't click until you start to fall into the understanding of, like, what they're doing and everything. It's kind of like that. Like, at first, you're like, okay, so these are puppets. They're very good puppets. They're beautiful puppets. But they are also puppets. Mm-hmm. And the story is very much in that convoluted high fantasy thing. So you have to simultaneously kind of get on top of both of those things and be good with it. And that's already past your brain figuring out before you can start to really get into it. So it does take time. And the first, I want to say 5 minutes are just exposition by a narrator. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of crazy. So you're like, at the beginning of that, any leeway, you jump in and you've got a narrator just telling you all the stuff that's happening. Yeah. So there's, it's not easy. It's not easy to just jump in and do that. Yeah.
And you have to be in a mindset that it's not going to be the light, fluffy, Muppets that we know. This is not a fun-spirited, joyful movie. This is a deep and dark movie for Jim Henson.
Yeah, full of metaphors, full of like all the Skeksis. I don't have that much trouble with words, just this one. They are supposed to represent different sins. Mm-hmm. Like the 7 deadly sins are all supposed to represent them. Yep. So kind of an interesting. So it's like you can tell like from everything that's happening, like you can feel that it's like very deeply full of metaphor.
You can definitely feel that Jim Henson and the Jim Henson Company with Frank Oz and everybody was trying to take a step forward with advancement of how they can interact with their characters to not just be a comedic relief or something fun like that, but that they can actually get into deep storytelling and they actually have full worlds that they wanted to create. In fact, the world that they created, they spent so much much time world building and like scanning and panning so you can see the depth of, all the creatures that they built.
The world itself was so rich, so lush, and so well put together.
Executed.
And just its art in general was just amazing. And so in the end, that's basically what sold me. The for whatever reason, I just kept believing. It just kind of worked. And even though the puppets at first were like, okay, these are puppets, even though they are puppets, and the only thing that really bugged me about it was the fact that their mouths just moved like puppets. Like, that was the only bummer about it. Everything else, the movement of the characters otherwise was very fluid and very natural. So it was pretty easy to get past it once you did.
Yeah. Now, leading into that, I gave him about 15 minutes to digest before we jumped into the first episode of the new series, which is a prequel series that just came out on Netflix, and it is a 10-part series. We only watched one episode with you, but enough to be able to see a difference and do a compare and contrast. And it shocked me. Let me just start out by saying that I had been intending to watch it while I was flying down to Disney a couple weeks ago, and when I pulled it up on my phone, it was too rich to be able to see on a little phone screen. And what I mean by that is it was even more heavily saturated with details and beauty and all the minuscule things that they spent time on that I could not focus on that small little screen for the hour-long episode because it was just so detailed.
Right. And we had it on a full-size TV, and it was just, you could watch like those scenes, 3 or 4 times and see something totally different, because you would look, and not only was it the scenery more rich and more detailed, but the shots, because of the new technology they had, the shots could be even more sweeping. They could be crane shots. They could fly in. They could do whatever with these with these scenes, and the way that the characters were sitting in the scene. That it really just felt seamless. And I know they implemented quite a bit of CG. However, never at any point did they CG a character in a way that would make you feel like it wasn't a puppet. So it was kind of fun because it never lost the feel and the vibe that you would get from when you think of the Dark Crystal. It very much still felt that way. You just had the difference.
All the characters were still puppets.
And looked really, they were very, again, amazing, even better,
beautiful,
even more beautifully done puppets, but they were still puppets, which was really, I thought that was actually a nice way to be like, hey, this is still serious, but we're still the Jim Henson Company, and screw it, we're still doing puppets.
We're going to take the time and give you what you wanted.
Right.
We're going to take the time and invest into this art and create these characters and these outfits and these worlds.
Yeah.
That way you can experience it even more in depth than what you were able to do in the movie. And it's beautiful.
It really is.
There are parts where you can't tell the difference between the puppet and the CGI.
Right.
The one thing that threw me off, though, was they added tongues.
Oh, yeah.
And so with the Skeksis, you're seeing like this tongue flickering around a little bit more than it should be.
It was a little disturbing, if I'm perfectly honest. It was overall, though, like, you're right, that was weird. But the other thing they had to do with this new version is they had to recast it, because it was, 30 some years later.
37 years to be exact.
Oh, okay.
So almost 40 years.
Almost 40 years, so that's a thing. But they, so they had to cast all these characters again, and there's a lot of characters to cast. And so and of course, because of who they were, they didn't pull out any stops.
Oh my gosh, this cast list is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The amount of famous people that they could get to fill these characters is
crazy,
shocking.
Just the names that I recognize from stuff that I was a fan of, not to mention just the random celebrities I know exist but I don't really follow. Like, we've got the main
we have
guy,
a list here. So
the main guy that was kind of the one of the main Gelflings.
Yeah, he's the main Gelfling that we follow in the show.
That's Taron Egerton from Kingsman, right? So and Elton John, Rocket Man, all that stuff.
Nathalie Emmanuel, who is from Game of Thrones, she is Deet. Anya Taylor-Joy as Bria. We have, so many people.
Yeah.
There's people from Outlander. There's Helena Bonham Carter.
Because of course there is.
I mean...
and the Emperor's Jason Isaacs, because, I mean, let's be honest, if you're going to go that direction, you might as well go all the way and just get Jason Isaacs to do it.
Or Simon Pegg as the Chamberlain.
Yeah, and I just didn't even really question it. And the scientist, I should have probably guessed this, was Mark Hamill, because he totally went all in on, like, that Joker voice that he does, and so it's very much in that world. It was perfect. Like, I went right from watching the original one. I literally, like she said, I had like 15 minutes to get from that one to digest it and go right into the new one. So it was very fresh. And all the character voicing was so seamless that I really didn't even think about it.
And that was another thing that I didn't realize that they were going to do is, I mean, I understood that the Skeksis were drawing life and trying to be immortal, but I didn't realize that they were going to have the same characters in this in this series, which was the prequel.
Yeah.
So for them to have the same characters and have the same, bodies and faces, and they look slightly younger because it's supposed to be 1,000 years earlier.
Right.
But to have like the voices are almost identical.
Yeah.
It is shocking at how well they did for the casting on this.
Yeah, it was shocking. Yeah, and so I don't remember, was the Collector in the old one?
I don't remember seeing her there, but they might not have had her be a big role.
The Collector was this like very sassy Skeksy, and it is just it's always like that. It's plural and singular, right?
Yeah.
Skeksis is like, anyway, and it was that was Awkwafina. Like, I mean, I should have probably like picked up on it, but I didn't.
Andy Samberg is the heretic.
Benedict Wong was the general. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's just amazing.
There's so many people that are.
It's just like, wait, what?
Harvey Fierstein.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's the Gormand. Lena Headey is.
Farah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah. It's just where's Eddie Izzard? Well, we'll have to get to that at some point. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, you can go through here and
they basically grabbed the entire cast of Kingsman, the entire cast of Game of Thrones, and just start there.
Well, and more.
And more.
I mean, obviously, and more.
Oh, for sure.
But it is.
Wait.
It is a crazy.
Yeah, that's another one from. Oh, that's from
Game of Thrones.
No, he's.
Well, he is in Game of Thrones.
Is he in Game of Thrones too? He's also in.
Shazad Latif.
He's Oh shoot. The new Star Trek. And so is Jason Isaacs.
Yeah.
There's a couple. Anyway, so they grabbed everyone, and it's the cast is incredible to listen to. They're great.
So the plot of the new one, we're not going to really spoil it too much for you, but it helps give even more detail to the world that was created in the Dark Crystal movie.
Yeah.
And considering the movie was only an hour and a half, and the first episode of the series was an hour and 10 minutes, They had a lot more time and a lot more freedom to be able to go over things, but they didn't do as much exposition. They didn't do as much internal monologue. It actually was engaging.
Right.
Who was the narrator? I know it was another big name.
Oh, it was Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, yeah. Sigourney Weaver was the narrator.
That was great.
Yeah, and the intro person.
Yeah.
But that's about all the exposition that you get, and it's fabulous.
Yeah, it really
is
quite good.
For what we've seen,
Yeah.
I would highly recommend it.
It's definitely not. It definitely took the feeling that you got from the original one and made it just more the way that you wished it was.
Disney Plused
it. Except they didn't, but they did.
They did. So, anyways, if you are a fan of the Jim Henson productions, if you're a fan of the Dark Crystal, if you are a fan of just art.
Yeah.
I mean, this is...
If you like filmmaking or just or like you said, art, just fine art in general, it really has that feeling so much. It's just so rich.
And I don't feel like this is a movie or a series that you necessarily need to know the movie.
No.
To be able to...
There's really the only things that they do would be just like kind of more fan serving elements. So it's like you see stuff and you're like, oh, I remember them from the thing. But like you don't need to because it's all introduced at that point in time. And then you could go on to watch the movie after and it would be totally congruous with each other.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely if you have the time, I would recommend watching it. It is a beautiful, beautiful show that they put together, an amazing cast, an amazing story, and just take the time. Take the time.
Agreed. Absolutely.
So
I've watched a lot of puppet stuff in the last 24 hours. So that's
true.
It's been a lot of just an overload of puppets. So thanks, Jim Henson.
You're welcome.
On that note, this has been WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And we hope you have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.